2019 is an odd year for gaming. We're on the verge of the next generation of consoles, but there is so much more happening. Battle Royale, the biggest genre of the past few years, is losing popularity. Epic Games Store is pulling out all stops to compete with Steam, which has been the king of PC game access for years. Sony's finally lowering its stone walls against Microsoft and allowing crossplay to exist, albeit slowly and highly curated, which is something we always understood to be pretty unlikely. Giant publishers like Activision, EA, Bethesda, and Ubisoft are constantly under fire, due to a systematic overload of money-grubbing schemes ruining what could be great games. The gaming culture as a whole, because of all these constant, exasperating issues, has become a bit cynical. I'm not saying that's not without good reason, but I hear too often that few good games are being made anymore, and I've set out to prove them wrong. Here are 12 games that everyone should be looking forward to, that are all coming out soon, set to be released this year. Number 12. Remnant from the Ashes. Starting off with what is probably the least well-known title on the list, we have Remnant from the Ashes, which comes to us on August 20th from Gunfire Games, the team behind Darksiders 3. In this dark survival shooter, you will visit various realms and alternate realities in search of a way to save the world from an ancient evil that hails from another dimension and rebuild mankind. This plot summary sounds a little generic, but just look at how cool this game is. You're one of the last humans alive, facing off against all kinds of terrifying creatures, and with portals, you get to visit new realms, meet new races, and face off against new horrors. Speaking of, one thing that really attracted me to this game is that each world you visit is dynamically generated. This means that each playthrough will be an entirely different experience, which, in a game like this, could mean tons and tons of replayability. It'll feature a form of co-op as well, so this could be an easy replacement for groups of friends looking for a new way to take on the world, or, in this case, worlds, together. Number 11. Ancestors, the Humankind Odyssey. If you love nature, animals, or simply monkeying around in a giant virtual jungle, then the upcoming survival game Ancestors is for you. Releasing on August 27th by Panache Digital Games, Ancestors seems to be raising the bar for open world survival. In this unique take on the genre, you don't play as one character. You play as an entire lineage of apes as you facilitate their survival and evolution. That makes it probably the most realistic interpretation of this type of gameplay yet, as it makes sense to learn important skills such as building a bed or crafting medicinal herbs when you're playing as an entire species trying to keep your place in the food chain. You'll face off against all types of predators and other threats, and you can freely switch between members of your clan. If one ape dies, you're switched to another member, and if all of them die, you lose the game. The current length of one playthrough is expected to be 40 to 50 hours long, so this isn't going to be a game in which you'll constantly be starting over. Taking place over a span of 8 million years, the sheer scope of this game is an instant draw for someone like me, who enjoys the unique blend of science, history, and wildlife. Really, I'm going bananas in anticipation. Okay, I'll see myself out. Number 10. Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Tom Clancy is a name that has become synonymous with realistic, engaging shooters typically set in a near future or a modern setting, but occasionally with sci-fi gadgets and player abilities. The four biggest series under this moniker are Splinter Cell, Rainbow Six, The Division, and Ghost Recon. The latter has been running for almost 20 years now since its initial release in 2001. Its most recent title, Ghost Recon Wildlands, introduced an open-world environment to the series, as well as a brand new narrative in a more modern setting. The newest entry, Breakpoint, is set to be released on October 4th, and it is a direct sequel to Wildlands, with similar mechanics and features. This tactical shooter set in an open world has you playing a US soldier named Nomad, and you have full reign of the vast world of Aroa, where you can use all sorts of air, land, and sea vehicles to get around. This should be a great new experience for fans of the series, as you'll have all sorts of new gadgets and weapons to neutralize your enemies efficiently. Number 9. Call of Duty Modern Warfare. This next entry might seem controversial to some, but it's important to note that because last year's infamous Black Ops 4 had so many disagreeable design choices, Infinity Ward seems to be stepping up to the plate to bring the series back into the public's favor. There are many reasons that FPS fans should be looking forward to this year's multiplayer shooter, set to be released on October 25th, even for those of you that have lost faith in the series. So, why should you trust Activision now, after being burned by them so many times before? To start, and this one should be obvious, we're returning to what is indisputably the most popular sub-series in Call of Duty, which is Modern Warfare. That means no more futuristic space battles, no more unrealistic death bots or laser guns or jetpacks. This is boots on the ground, Call of Duty at its peak gameplay. This is also promised to be a much more mature entry, having a deeper focus on its campaign and the emotional responses it attempts to elicit. It's been noted that several of the game's playtesters cried due to the impact of the narrative. Even Kit Harington couldn't make that happen in previous games. Finally, the biggest reason you should be excited for Modern Warfare: no season pass, no paid DLC. Microtransactions will exist, but after the failure of Treyarch with their last game, we can be sure it'll be much, much more fair. Number 8. Gears 5. Next up is Gears 5, the 6th installment of the Gears of War series, and the direct sequel to Gears of War 4. We'll see the return of plenty of our favorite characters, including JD and Marcus Phoenix, Delmont Walker, and of course, Kate Diaz, who is our new protagonist. This time around, we're focusing on Kate's origins, as she faces her inner demons regarding her past and lineage. To be perfectly transparent, I myself am a bit of a Sony fanboy. I've never owned an Xbox, and I've never actually played any Gears games, but I have to say, after seeing the official announcement of Gears 5 at E3, I think I finally have a reason to get myself a second console. This game looks absolutely stunning, and for fans of the Gears series, you can expect all of the gameplay you know and love, and then some. Cooperative play makes a return, as well as some incredibly unique multiplayer modes to sink your teeth into. On September 10th, the 3-year wait since the last entry comes to a close. Number 7. Pokemon Sword and Shield. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way first. We are well aware of all the backlash that Game Freak is receiving regarding the newest entry in their Pokemon series. Clearly represent a game built for the 3DS and moved to the Switch late in development, and their response to fans being upset that there will be no global Pokédex was puzzling. In case you missed that, their response essentially boils down to, "We get it. We're not changing it, but we get it. We hope you buy future games from us." Putting that aside, these games are one step closer to what millions of people dreamed of back in the 90s when we first found out what addiction truly meant with the original Pokemon titles on the Game Boy. I myself was among them. I was the perfect age to fall into their brilliant trap of collecting, trading, and owning more merch than my parents had room in their garage for. Pokemon Sword and Shield are arriving on November 15th, and will include a brand new generation of Pokemon to meet, as well as a host of new features and mechanics that could definitely change the series for the better. To name a few, we have the Dynamax system, which lets you grow your Pikachu to an extremely uncomfortable size, as well as online raids, which allow you to team up with trainers around the world to take down harder enemies, similar to what we have in the mobile game, Pokemon Go. Backlash or no, I really believe that this will be a step in the right direction for the series, and we're that much closer to a true, open-world Pocket Monsters adventure. Number 6. Control. Quick survey, and be sure to answer in the comments. Who remembers that visually breathtaking trailer from E3 last year that showed off a woman with incredible psychic powers that would make Stephen King's Carrie throw the towel in? Well, I do, but for some reason it doesn't seem like this game is getting enough attention. Control is set to be released on August 27th, and if you haven't looked into it yet, you should do yourself a favor and check it out. Wielding a supernatural firearm that can change form, you play as Jesse Faden, who has supernatural abilities that you can utilize, including telekinesis, levitation, mind control, and more. It actually reminds me quite a bit of one of my favorite PS2 titles, which was called Psyops: The Mindgate Conspiracy. And if you are as big of a fan of that game as I am, you have absolutely no reason not to play Control. If you couldn't tell already, this one is probably the game that I'm most excited about for the year. Getting back into the game a little bit before we move on, you'll be investigating the disappearance of Jesse's younger brother, who was kidnapped by the government agency known as the Federal Bureau of Control. This brings you to their supernatural headquarters, where you'll fight your way up a massive, ever-changing tower against a multitude of enemies and impossible odds.
I'm just, really excited for this game, okay?
Number 5. Wolfenstein Youngblood. Wolfenstein is a series that, along with Doom by the same developers, essentially helped to create and popularize the first-person shooter genre. They've both been rebooted and remade countless times, and both have new games coming this year, so they're both clearly still going strong. If you haven't kept up with the latest Wolfenstein reboot, you're missing out on something beautiful. Starting with The New Order in 2014, this series follows familiar protagonist William B.J. Blazkowicz as he fights off against the Nazi powers that have taken over America in an alternate version of history where Hitler and his German army won World War II. These games have some of the best FPS action this generation, and they all contain surprisingly deep stories, character building, and lore. At the end of the most recent entry, The New Colossus, BJ saw himself at the head of a resistance group in Nazi America. On July 26th, this month, Youngblood sends us 19 years into the future. America has been liberated, but BJ has gone missing while on a mission in France, and his twin daughters Jessica and Sophia take it upon themselves to rescue him. From the looks of it, this could be one of the year's best games, and I haven't even told you the best part yet. This incredible game will only be $30 at launch, and for $10 more you can go a step further and get the deluxe edition, which gives you a buddy pass so that you can invite a friend who doesn't own the game to play through the story with you. That's essentially $40 for 2 copies of the game. There's no reason not to get it if you love good stories, great gameplay, and some of the purest video game brutality of the year. Oh, and did I mention there's Nazi killing? Number 4. Death Stranding. For the last couple years, Sony has had what gamers refer to as the Big Three. This was a group of 3 highly anticipated PS4 exclusives that everyone was waiting for. These included The Last of Us Part 2, Naughty Dog's sequel to one of the best games in existence, Ghost of Tsushima, the incredible looking samurai game from Sucker Punch, and Death Stranding, the game that nobody understood but everybody wanted to know more about. On November 8th, Kojima will unleash his latest creation on the world for everybody to play, watch, experience. Let's go with that. The theme of this strange action game is connection. As Sam Porter Bridges, pun most definitely intended, you must connect the divided fragments of society around a dangerous world filled with giant, merciless creatures and supernatural occurrences such as a rain that can age whatever it touches. That about sums up my understanding of the game, but I urge you to watch the trailers because, as abstract as everything might seem, I really think Kojima can pull this one off and create something people will talk about for years to come. Number 3. The Outer Worlds. This year sees the release of 2 post-apocalyptic games, with Rage 2 released earlier this year, and Borderlands 3 coming in September. At first glance, The Outer Worlds seems to be just another one of these, but if you really look into it, it's got something wildly unique. You won't actually be on Earth in this game at all. You'll be exploring alien planets that have been colonized by mega corporations that came from Earth. Set to be released on October 25th, this first-person RPG is, in my mind anyway, a sort of spiritual successor to the Fallout series. For those that don't know, Obsidian is the team behind the spin-off title Fallout New Vegas, which in my opinion is one of the better Fallout titles. Tons of features from that game seem to carry over into the Outer Worlds, with things like companions that have their own quest lines, and dialogue decisions that affect the core story. The 2 directors of this game, Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky, are the original creators of the Fallout series. In true RPG fashion, You'll have different weapon types you can use in combat, which can all be customized and attuned for different elements, and you can focus on different character attributes, such as stealth or social skills, which allows you to approach things differently with each build. You'll also have VATS, I mean Tactical Time Dilation, which slows down time in combat and allows you to assess the situation before you act. Too many people seem to be sleeping on this game, and after doing some research on it for this video, I won't be one of them. Number 2. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. For the number 2 spot, we have the latest game in one of the biggest franchises known to humanity, Star Wars. This franchise has a long, tumultuous history when it comes to video games, with some good ones, some great ones, and lots of complete shit. Understandably, the core fanbase is skeptical every time we get a new game announcement. I mean, the last 2 worth noting were the Battlefront games, which didn't really care to create a good single-player story worth playing. What sets Fallen Order apart is that its story is canon, and will be considered official lore. Set to be released on November 15th, this game takes place a few years after Episode 3 of the film series, Revenge of the Sith. You play as Cal, a Jedi Padawan that has escaped Order 66 and is on the run from the Galactic Empire, which is on a mission to eradicate any and all remaining Jedis. You'll explore new and familiar worlds, meet characters you know from other media, and take down some of the most relentless villains we've ever seen in a Star Wars game. You'll have all sorts of Jedi powers at your fingertips, plus a droid named BD-1, who you can interact with and gather information from about the environment around you. All of that to say this: go get your lightsabers out from under your beds and in your closets, because I think they just might be cool again. Number 1. Borderlands 3. To close out our list of the best games still coming in 2019 for gamers to be excited about, we have Borderlands 3, set to be released on September 13th. The Borderlands games are some of the most well-known first-person shooter games on the market, and if you haven't at least watched someone play one of them, you could be missing out on your potential new favorite game. These loot-driven games are best experienced with friends, as there are different classes to choose from, each with their own strengths. In Borderlands 3, we get a look at 4 new playable characters, each completely insane, and each appearing to be loads of fun. This entry will also expand your potential options for character builds, by including 3 unique skills for each character, as opposed to the 1 that each had in previous games. Many of your favorite Borderlands characters from previous titles, even including the spin-off game Tales from the Borderlands, are back for the insanity in the first true sequel we've gotten since Borderlands 2 in 2012. There's not really much more for me to say at this point. If you know Borderlands, you know this will be epic. If you've made it this far, congratulations and thank you. We hope you enjoyed, but most of all, we hope you learned something about a few of these games. There's so much to look forward to over the next few months, and I for one am going to have my hands full. 2020 isn't too far off at this point, but now you've got 12 potential AAA games to keep you satisfied until then. Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments, and hit up gamersamongus.com to keep a close eye on everything coming out in the near future. This has been Calamity Code with GAU, and if you're among us, I'll see you next time.